Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Fear-Free Passive Investing, where it's all about discussing passive commercial real estate investing and the fears that new investors have when learning about it. We interview past newbie investors on what fears and questions they had when they got started, as well as tips and tricks to give you the confidence to make the leap. Let's face those fears and jump right in. What's going on, everyone? This is Lucas Miller, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. I am having a fantastic day, and today's episode is awesome. We have Justin Grimes with me. Justin actually has his very own podcast called The Cash Flow Hustle. He's been a real estate investor for a while, and he has several properties. Justin's now focusing on managing his family's wealth, but you'll hear about that in a minute. If you're getting any sort of value out of this podcast, please take 2 minutes and go leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever you're listening. I would really appreciate hearing some feedback because I want to know if I'm on the right track and I want to know if I'm asking the questions that you want answered. So with that, let's talk to Justin. This is Lucas Miller back again with another passive investor interview here. And today I've got Justin Grimes with me today. Justin, welcome. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, cool, man. Thanks, Lucas, for having me on. My background, I guess, the high-level version. At this point, I live in Houston, Texas. I still have a W-2 income job.
Awesome.
I've got 2 little ones with my wife. We've got 2 little boys.
How old?
One is going to be 3 in August, and we're recording this in March. It's 2.5 and maybe nice. 10 months.
That's right.
Yeah. So, plenty of challenges with that.
I know nothing with that.
Yeah, as they grow older, there'll be different challenges. But anyway, they keep us on our toes on the weekends, that's for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
So, yep. As far as the real estate space goes, my family's been involved here for just a few years. I know we'll dive into that.
Yeah.
But with, a variety of I've participated in a variety of asset classes and niches. And
awesome.
I enjoy diversification ultimately.
Yeah, and we've talked about some of that diversification. So why don't you take us through, what your first passive investing experience was like, how you got started with it, and where you're at today with different types of assets that you're involved in.
Sure. Yeah. So, kind of the catalyst for my family to get involved in the space came from an unfortunate event and a tragic event in our life where we lost my dad to an auto accident. And from that, I took the initiative, I suppose, to try to help my mom supplement her income retirement. Mm-hmm. She's 63, 4 now, maybe. So anyway, she's still got plenty of years left, and wanted to kind of alleviate her worry from watching the stocks and bonds and all that stuff kind of go through roller coasters. So initially, that's where we had a lot of her capital or liquidity tied up in that. And, we still have some stuff in there, but what we wanted to do, again, was kind of eliminate that worry for her so that she would know there's some monthly cash flow coming in, and it's, as stable, as an investment can be for someone her age with their goals and things like that. So anyway, the first particular investment we looked at, I started looking at different ways, I suppose, the wealthy, grow, protect multi-generational wealth. And I found real estate. So we looked at, in particular, first multifamily.
Right. And,
so learning through that space, there weren't any real good tools. I'm aware of a few now, but, the learning curve was a lot of reading, a lot of podcasts, a lot of, internet. There's plenty of information out there, but it's not all consolidated. Again, there's not a lot of resources out there that consolidate and really help you shorten that learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did the best I could. Part of any investment that we make now, and we may get into that in a little bit as well, but I go through a couple of things when I'm looking to work with a particular sponsor. And one of the things I consider is if my dad would drink a beer with this guy, So
That's awesome.
as interesting as that may sound, our family, we just like good people. We want to
Yeah.
associate best we can with those individuals who are, who have interests aligned with us and the similar goals as far as capital preservation and,
Yes.
some different things like that. So anyway, when I'm talking to a guy and in the back of my mind, or at least before we do make an investment, I do consider that, which, right or wrong, that's one of my criteria.
No, I don't think that's wrong at all. In fact, I my wife and I have something really similar, and it's call it a gut feeling, call it, whatever you want. There's something in the back of your mind that you go through and you can't quantify it, you can't put statistics to it or anything, but it's a gut feeling.
Mhm.
If you have a bad feeling about something, chances are it's not going to end up well. And at least it hasn't for me. I knew that one time I had a bad gut feeling about a deal, rushed into it and lost a bunch of money on it. And frankly, I should have seen it coming.
Yeah.
And so now, same thing as you, I have made a goal that I have to trust that gut feeling no matter what. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. It's, tough to, once you've gone down the path of not trusting that gut feeling, then you've
Yes.
learned your lesson, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes. So you took something which most people, had to have been an incredible tragedy, but you turned it around and you made a commitment to your mom that you were going to help her preserve that capital and to provide for her, something that I'm sure your dad really appreciates. But how did you talked about how the wealthy provide or how preserve their wealth. That's a big jump going from, hey, I'm going to go with what's safe in the stock market to I'm going to passively invest in a huge deal and potentially give this person, I don't know what your minimum was, but quite a bit of money, I assume. How did you get over that
Yeah.
fear?
Yeah. So, we started out with a pool of capital. And what we looked at was, what makes us uncomfortable in stocks and bonds? Well, we are out of control
Yeah.
completely, and all of our eggs are, in essence, in a single basket that's dictated, you know, by the news, by things going on in Europe, by a variety of
Yeah.
events, politics, all kinds of things.
Doesn't
So,
matter.
yeah. So what we did was slowly peel away $50,000 tranches of capital and plant those in individual seeds across a
Hmm.
variety of asset classes. Initially with multifamily, we focused a lot in Dallas, particularly initially,
Okay.
which has been a hot market for many years. It continues to still be, but once we had seeds there, while I still like that space, we decided, well, that's not sticking to our values of diversification. So
Yeah.
planted seeds in other markets as well. And then, kind of, not that 2 years is a long time to allocate, however many, tranches of that kind of capital, but we've got things across the country, and not only in the multifamily space, but in self-storage, again, all passive self-storage and mobile home park, RV park type of
Yeah.
investments. So,
So we talk a lot about multifamily on this show, but this I've heard some people say that multifamily is the gateway drug to commercial real estate investing. Let's talk about a little bit about self storage in RV parks. How did you find those deals? How did you vet them? Um, what did that look like for you?
So a lot of, my journey always seems to start with an interview, a podcast, an article, or something where
Okay.
somebody's speaking with, or on a subject, and it piques my interest in those
Yes.
particular areas. So, I start trying to learn more and ask around, through different conferences and, relationships that I've been able to develop, and I know you have as well. You've
Yeah.
rubbed shoulders with a lot of different individuals who have a variety of backgrounds. So, a lot of those individuals I I don't know that you call it a friendship, but certainly
Right.
acquaintances and some sort of relationship has been developed where I respect their decisions and their
Right.
business model and why they're doing what they're doing. So in those spaces, I look for some level of expertise operationally.
Sure.
So I'm not uh, an expert in any one of those particular fields, but I do try to develop relationships with people that I feel like and that others seem to feel like have a
Hmm.
good track record and an expertise in that particular niche.
A lot of people think that the hardest part of investing in real estate is understanding the deal or analyzing the deal or analyzing complex terms. I would argue that the hardest part is building relationships with people that you know, have known for very little time.
Mhm.
Especially in syndications, if you're putting money into a deal, you're basically investing in that sponsor. You can do your due diligence, you can do all these things, but ultimately there's a level of trust there. So, how did you eventually get to the point where you trusted those people? Is it
Yeah,
just through relationships?
no, I think, track record, and I'm interested in getting started. And we talked a little bit in the RV park space, and our biggest
Yeah.
obstacle will be track record. And for me,
Yeah.
I'll be able to plug in an expert in the niche, and we can talk about that. But, I'm looking for people who have been there, done that, and executed on projects, through the full cycle from acquisition to disposition at the end. And delivering on their expectation of the business plan and executing that properly. So it takes time,
Hmm.
and it's not necessarily. You may you have a very small pool potentially, I suppose, of all the different opportunities that are available to you if that is your criteria. But I think
Right.
it comes down to what your goals are. For me and my family, at my mom's age and what our goals are, it's less risky, I suppose. So we're comfortable hitting singles and doubles as a baseball analogy. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So it's not that you're trying to move to one specific asset type. You're trying to diversify across multifamily, self-storage, RV parks. Tell us about the RV parks. That's interesting. We haven't talked about that before.
Yeah. So it comes through a mutual relationship of a good buddy of mine. So he's got a connection that has successfully built basically a 20-acre, 180 plus space RV park here in Texas. And then he's also acquired one and rehabbed it. And both of them are nearing, I guess, exit for him at this point. So, he's been able to successfully build out somewhat the blueprint, and figure out what did work. Ultimately, he's got a high ranking and rating with some of those agencies, I guess, that pay attention to the RV and camping space arenas.
Right.
So, over the years, he's kind of built out the model, and what we're hoping to do is step and repeat. So, a lot of people, I've sent various deals in the RV space to mobile home park investors that are big out there, and they aren't so interested in that particular niche because it's a higher turnover on uh,
Yeah.
your customer, right? So they don't want to handle with the paperwork or that turnover of cash and things like that. However, if you enter into that business and you develop those systems like this gentleman has, then it's just another business. Yeah, it's got the same
Yeah.
operating procedures and things, just like a mobile home park would. You do have that component of higher turnover, but with proper planning and execution, it's not a bad thing. Yeah, I mean, you could have somebody. He has people that'll maybe prepay for the month, leave halfway through the month, and he fills it back in on the halfway through the month. If I That's making
Yeah.
sense. Anyway, he's generating more revenue than a monthly space should in some instances, which is fascinating. So,
Yeah. That is fascinating. And the only other asset class I've heard of that is like Airbnb.
mhm.
There's obviously only 30, 31 days in a month. some of those guys are generating, 35, 36 bookings a month. And how that happens is, people leave, rebook, things like that. So that's really intriguing to me. So you see that more as, like we were talked about, diversification, but also you're clearly motivated to excel in these deals. Do you want to do any of these deals yourself? Do you want to passively invest in them for the long term? What's your outlook on that?
Yeah, what we want to do in the RV space in particular is get more actively involved in that.
Okay.
So what that gentleman did was he had exited and sold a business, had his own capital, plugged in a bank loan as well, and grew that organically. So what I'd like to do in that particular space is bring the syndication model there,
Mm.
to help to raise that equity. Still have the debt component, but with his systems and things in place, you have a nice opportunity to plug into particular markets and really scale up, and the returns can be substantial.
Switching back to how you learned these things. It doesn't matter what we talk about. You can talk about multifamily, mobile home parks, RV parks, whatever. What were some of the resources you used to get to that point? Because you talked about it, there wasn't a lot there. So how did you educate yourself?
Yeah, books in particular, I guess. Yeah, one of the guys I respect a lot and we've invested with as well is Joe Fairless. I think he has a ton
Yeah.
of free content available consistently,
Mhm.
that he's just giving it away, So, all the secrets aren't necessarily given, but man, there's a ton that you can really, you can learn a heck of a lot with. And there's other spaces as well in the self-storage space.
Okay.
Hunter Thompson
Yeah.
has published quite a bit of information. And then just guests that come on, he spoke at the conference we were both at recently, but Ryan Smith is in the mobile home and our self-storage spaces as well. So I try and listen to what those guys have to say, find any additional content that they've had. The podcast or conferences and different things give me an opportunity to contact those individuals and invite them on to have a conversation that otherwise they'd probably have no interest in talking to me. So I like
that's
that. It's a good excuse.
that's awesome. Yeah. Wait. So let's wrap up a little bit here. You started. I mean, you fell into this. You had to have fears. What do you wish someone would have told you when you first got started? And looking back, what advice would you give someone who might be on the fence about passively investing?
I think at the beginning, I wanted to have it all the capital at work at once. And as I reflected back on that, that's the wrong approach, certainly, because to just throw money at stuff so that it's working and not necessarily sitting in an account waiting for good opportunity is a terrible idea. So
It's a gamble. Yeah.
yeah, so be patient. Uh, I think the most important thing that you could probably do is really take a step back. We took a year before we started investing in these things.
Okay.
We really tried to understand. Eventually, you have to jump, but really
Mhm.
understand what are our goals, and what are some different ways that we can accomplish them. As time's gone on, we've adjusted. We said we were only going to do multifamily at one point, and then these other opportunities came up, and we said, well, this meets our goal of diversification a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you got to be flexible. You got to understand that, just because you have a business plan or a blueprint or something, it's just you need to have some fluidity with it and be flexible to a certain extent, but committed to your underlying goals.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's awesome. Well, where do you see yourself going in the next year and a half, 2 years, with regards to passively investing?
Yeah, I think we've got a fair amount of capital working right now in deals. We're selective, maybe more so now as time's gone on, and we're not Chicken Little waiting for the sky to fall, but we are. I guess we understand that the market can't always go up. Yeah, so
Yeah.
We're kind of got some money sitting on the sidelines. We've got plenty that's actively working and performing well. So we've kind of got that, allocated appropriately. The portfolio is diverse, and we just want to take our time and probably let that thing kind of marinate for, I don't know, 6 months, watch how we perform, adjust, and ultimately hopefully be ready to take advantage of an opportunity when it presents itself, whether that's 6 months from now or, 2 years.
Awesome. That's great. So you've got a podcast. Let's talk a little bit about that, and maybe people can reach out to you through that, or how would you like to answer questions if people do have them?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So the podcast, something I'm passionate about is multiple streams of income. I think it's risky out there to have a single source of income.
Yes.
It's just not a good spot necessarily to put your family in if somebody decides one day that they don't need you in that job or position or whatever anymore. So my podcast is called The Cash Flow Hustle, and what we do is interview a lot of people in the real estate space, but other entrepreneurial areas as well that are coming up with various methods to increase cash flow and income streams.
Nice.
Ultimately trying to establish some level of financial freedom, whether that's, however much money that may be, but ultimately time, your most important resource at the end of the day is the time that you have. So
yes,
make enough that you're free to spend that how you like. Yeah.
Cool. And if people want to get in touch with you?
So the website's thecashflowhustle.com. And my email is jgrimes, GRIMES at thecashflowhustle.com.
Cool.
And then if they'll reach out to you as well, we can hook up together that way as well.
Cool. Well, I really enjoyed talking about this, and we appreciate you sharing your story too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And I look forward to keeping in touch.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye. All right, everyone. That was Justin Grimes, the man behind the Cash Flow Hustle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take 2 minutes and go leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you're listening, please leave a rating and review. It's really going to help this podcast take off. As always, you can find links to everything we talked about today at fearfreepassive.com. That's fearfreepassive.com. We'll have links to the show notes and everything that you'll need to get caught up, as well as links to Justin's profile and his podcast. I appreciate you listening this far and hope you'll listen to the next one. Thanks again.